I don't know. Maybe I got my nursing degree at the Holiday Inn Express. I'm not sure, but I've been
Oh,
doing more of that than lawyering this week.
I'm sorry I brought it up. I did not know that. I hope Craig's doing well.
No, you don't have to apologize. No, I will get back to you. But yes, I'm amongst the land of the living, but just kind of doing a dual career for the moment. So.
Janece, of course, and I talk about the legal system and what it means to ordinary people. I have to say, as an ordinary person, I don't get what's happening at the Christian Marina Rivera trial. I know you are at least acquainted or possibly friends with his attorneys, but Molly Tibbetts was killed 3 years ago in July. Why are we just now getting to trial?
I know. And, I'm not sure because I thought I saw new defense counsel for him. I'm not sure if the people that I knew are still on board or not. I guess I'm not. And I haven't had a chance to peek in on the trial this week. But I know, isn't it Channel 8, I think, has it online?
Yeah, they have it online. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just caught headlines. But yeah, the length of time, of course, keep in mind COVID took a big chunk of time. Our courts were shut down for a period of time. In fact, I've got a trial, unfortunately, that was continued way before COVID for a very valid reason. And then we were set to try it, and it was the week that they shut down. So now
really?
My guy has to wait yet another year. I mean, so, the courts have done the best that they can, and I think they've really done a good job. I haven't had a trial yet under COVID, but from everything that I'm hearing from my colleagues, they're doing a fabulous job in terms of accommodating jurors, accommodating spacing, everything. And I only know of one trial. Now, I'm not saying there aren't more, but I only know of one trial where they, unfortunately, I think they were on the last day or the second to the last day, and one of the attorneys tested positive for COVID, and so it was a mistrial. And they're gonna, that's too bad, and that's the risk that you're facing. So yeah, I mean, but the length of time, I've never quite understood. I mean, keep in mind, in criminal law, you have a right to a speedy trial, and there's reasons for that, because you don't want to be sitting in jail if you're innocent.
No, you don't.
I mean, that makes sense. But often, in fact, for the bigger crimes, of course, most times that gets waived because you need time to get experts and, all your evidence and testing and everything in line. So, and I'm saying all of this with deference to all my criminal law colleagues, because they clearly know this better than I do. I'm just going off of what I see on 2020. No, not quite, but they have reasons to waive a speedy trial. And then it's up to a judge whether a continuance is warranted. And sometimes continuances are warranted because there's further mental health testing that's being done on the defendant. The defendant is the person that is alleged to have committed the crime. So sometimes, in the process of this, an attorney realizes that their client is not capable of a defense, and is unstable enough that, or mentally challenged enough that it wouldn't make sense to try them. And oftentimes that doesn't surface within those 90 days. So, I'm not excusing, this, and obviously, we've, as a community, we've just gone through what we saw with Pastor Al Henderson and the delays that were there. Obviously people are in limbo and grieving, and there's not closure. Not that, what happened there even helps with closure so much, because there's still a man that was lost, and in this case, a young lady that was lost. So, closure is of, you have to put it in perspective, of course, but it does open old wounds, of course, that you're trying to heal, and seeing things and hearing things. And I don't know, is her family in the courtroom? I would guess yes, but I
think so. Yeah. I don't know. I'm like you. I would guess it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And to see and hear these things can't be Well, goodness, who wants to hear and see those things? I mean, and probably the jury doesn't want to hear and see these things, but
Nobody wants to
they
hear it.
were
It
warned.
was a brutal murder. I mean, he
Yes.
chased that girl down the road, and I don't know if there was a sexual assault. He wasn't charged with sexual assault, by the way.
Well, and I would think they would have done testing to determine whether that happened or not. So the fact that he wasn't charged with it, again, we're not in the courtroom, we're not hearing the
That's
evidence,
right.
so all of this is conjecture here. But I would think that if they did not charge him with that, because certainly you would charge with everything you've got.
Certainly.
Yeah, there would be no reason not to.
Janece Valentine's our guest today on 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge. You and I talked about this about a year ago, and my point then is my point now. Why in the world would these attorneys, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but well, I'm going to just say it as I feel it. Why in the world would these attorneys go to the wall for such a man? I understand he needs a fair trial, but and I know I just heard you say it's their job, but they seem to be trying.
That's their job. I said it's our job. I mean, and by our, I mean as a legal community, I have chosen not to represent criminal defendants.
Right.
That's the path my life has taken. But I have lots of colleagues that's their calling, and I applaud them, because that's what makes the system work. If you don't have capable, skilled counsel on both sides of the table, the laws don't protect you. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing. In fact, I just read a case. Was it last week or week before that came down where, and I didn't know this because, again, I don't do criminal law, but it would make sense to me that the state can't call your client as a witness, even an adverse. I mean, they just can't call him as a witness. And apparently in this trial, it happened. And I can't believe, in my mind, I'm thinking, where was the judge? I mean, why didn't the judge go, excuse me, sidebar, we need to talk about this.
Sure.
This shouldn't happen. And so, the charges that were levied against that particular individual were remanded. I mean, it's reversed and remanded. That's a new trial. And again, anytime you have to deal with a new trial, it's costly for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The system, because the courthouse doesn't want to hear cases twice.
I believe that.
Yeah, and lawyers and experts and everything. I mean, that's not the way the system is intended. But we do want skilled people. So I get people that are on, what I'm going to say, on the outside or whatever, sitting and looking on the sidelines, saying, "Ooh, who would represent this?" And we can always have our own opinions about people, but in the same token, I always remind myself that, not that I plan on committing murder by any chance or by any stretch of the imagination, but everybody has the chance of being wrongfully convicted. Everybody.
Yes.
And I want to convey that because, I grew up with parents that said, if you're not in the wrong place at the wrong time, nothing bad's going to happen to you.
Right.
Well, that's not true.
That's very true. My dad had a different saying: nothing good happens after midnight. But actually, I found out
that was another big one.
Yeah, but actually, I found out my dad was wrong.
I did too, and I remember coming home after midnight one time and being faced with those questions the following morning. Nothing good happens after midnight. What was going on? And I'm like, I just had to say, probably nothing good.
Yeah. Actually, there was a lot of fun, but probably nothing good. Sometimes in parents' minds, especially of their generation, fun and good get a little warped, get a little screwed up there.
Well, and it is a fine line.
Yes, it is. I know what they're saying, but I probably I kind of came into parenthood with the idea I didn't want my son to be raised as I was. My parents were old school. They thought that their job was to help me to get to adulthood. Now they just assumed I'd start drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes and having a few drinks every now and then. I didn't disappoint them. I just got started way the hell before they were ready to to give the okay to that whole idea. And that was a common theme back in those days. We have to get them ready for adulthood. And I agree with that. Of course, it's
Well,
obviously.
and I think parents, yeah, I'm with you. My parents were old school. They were not my friends. Um, my friends didn't come over to our house and have beer or so, you know what I mean? That just didn't happen. And I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
and when I say that, I'm not suggesting parents are allowing that to happen. I don't mean that, but I see a different relationship, much more friendly between kids and parents than kind of a decade, or not a decade, a generation ago. And there, some of that isn't bad. I mean, I think some of these kids are able to say things or confide in their parents things that I would have never told my parents.
Sure.
So there's some good there too. But the idea is that there's a reason you're called mom or dad and not
Mm-hmm.
buddy.
Sure.
So
Uh,
yeah.
Janece Valentine's our guest. She's an attorney. Again, you can reach Janece by going to www.valentinelaw.net or calling 955-5544. You mentioned you didn't want to get involved in criminal law. My son's getting a divorce. He doesn't. You don't want to get involved in divorce law either. That's murder.
No. Well, now you're kind of mixing criminal law.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
I did that unintentionally, I guess.
I kind of figured that.
Yeah, right. Matt Campbell is a stand-up guy as far as I'm concerned. I know you're a U of I grad and all that, but any man who stays at Iowa State University as their football coach, turning down $8.5 million over 5 years with the Detroit Lions, my hat is off to him.
Well, okay, and just so everybody can make their own decision, but I just saw earlier today, and I think it was Keith Murphy. Is he on Channel 13 or Channel 8?
I believe he's on 13, I believe.
Okay, Keith Murphy, I think, had a Facebook post indicating that was not correct information, that Detroit is saying they never made the offer.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
So now, again, who knows in that world what's real or not? I mean, maybe they're covering for something that we don't know about, or who knows? But there is a question as to whether that was really made.
Boy, somebody's in trouble in somebody in the sports department somewhere if that doesn't hold up. I mean, if Campbell comes forward and said, yeah, well, then it's all over. But if he comes forward and says, yeah, the Lions never really offered it to me, somebody's about to lose their job. That's a biggie.
I don't know in that world how big that is because, again, like I said, there's so much cover, and sometimes for good reason. I mean, there are, behind-the-scene contract negotiations going on that need to be behind the scenes. And so...
Oh, sure. I'm not saying that.
Right. But there is a question as to whether that's legit, whether the offer was really made. So just so you know that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you told me because I'm talking sports later this afternoon with Nevin Mulholland and Randy Koolman, and they'll both just jump down my throat right off the bat if that turns out to be a false story.
Well, Nevin and Randy, they'll know. They were probably in the deal.
They probably were, especially Nevin. My God, he knows the sports agents involved, their personalities, how they negotiate. I'm like, my God, man. Anyway,
they'll set you straight.
I want to talk about the legislative session that just ended.
Thank God.
Well, you were a high school athlete, of course, in a different time. What do you think about transgender athletes competing in girls' sports?
Until I'm told that there's some injustice, I guess I don't have my opinion would be, let people compete. To my knowledge, no transgender female has won the high jump and I'm referencing track right now because, hey, go Gales, state champs.
Absolutely.
In the 4x8.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fabulous and young. I mean, Ms. Bemerick is a senior, but I think the rest are young.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I guess I just don't know that the science establishes that people that are transgender are all athletic. I mean, let's start with that.
Now you're kind of evading the question here a little bit. I know that. I know that, but I have a little 7-year-old granddaughter. She's the light of my life. All my grandchildren are the light of my life. But she likes to wrestle, and she's an actual female. I mean,
Mhm.
I've seen pictures of transgenders competing in female wrestling. It looks like a guy choking out a little girl. That's what it looks like. It's not pleasant to look at. I mean, some of these transgender athletes don't have the hormonal plan straightened out well enough, and they might have hair on their legs and arms and everything else, and they're beating the hell out of a teenage girl. I mean, that's grotesque.
Well, I remember you don't even have to be a teenage girl. Even as an adult girl, I have hair on my arms and legs too. So,
Now,
just
see, there
saying.
you go again. But it's you don't have curly, coarse hair coming out of your arms and legs. I've seen you. There
Well,
you go. You just want to get out there in libertarian land and liberal land and say, no, I'm okay with it. Now,
no, well, and again, I guess I just want to know what the science says, and I want to see what bears out, because again, I think this is, a solution in search of a problem, and
no,
and
it
I
isn't. No, especially with wrestling. I rarely interrupt you, and I apologize for doing it this
no,
time.
that's fine.
But
And you know what, in wrestling, um, that could be very different. It
yes,
very well could be.
yeah. Dan Gable said a number of years ago, and he's right, that we had to start having women's wrestling, young women's wrestling in college, or the sport was going to die. He's right. However, since then, we have these transgender athletes who want to compete in female wrestling, and you're right, they may not be able to contend in male wrestling, but in female wrestling, they're the champs. This will kill female wrestling if we start allowing transgender women. I can't hardly say that. If we start allowing this and they start to win state championships, and they will,
But have they? I guess that's what I'm saying. Are we just talking about things that might happen, or are we talking about things that really have happened?
Why let it happen? I'll throw that back to you. It hasn't happened yet because this is a relatively new phenomena, but it will happen soon. It will happen very soon, and then we can't go back.
Once it happens, then we see how we address that. I mean, I guess again, until I know that my car has a flat tire, I don't go changing the tires. I wait till I have a flat tire, and then I say, oh, I got to do something about this. But I don't just change my tires every week just in case.
But you do want some sort of warranty toward the future. I mean, you don't want to be stuck in January on Interstate 35 at midnight. So you want tires that are dependable. And again, keeping young biological males grouped together and young biological women grouped together would seem to be fair and equitable to all. And we should, nothing happened in this legislature, this legislative session. And I don't know if it ever will. I can't believe 1% of 1% of the population has this much political pull, but maybe they do. And it's an article of faith with the Democrats, of course.
I guess I would offer that it's, and I don't even know if that stat is correct, if it's 1% or 1%, but we're humans.
Yes.
And maybe we're 100% population humans. And so I think there's a whole lot more than that feel we need to just be human.
Janece, you're great. I consider you a great friend, but I'm just going to have to admit that you're wrong and move on from here.
I'm okay with that.
I know.
That's healthy too.
That's
right. To show people you don't have to agree on everything to be cordial.
No. Or
and
friendly.
Even more than cordial. Cordial sounds like you're just forcing things. And I don't mean it that way, but people need to learn that we can have dialogues and sometimes walk away going, well, that person's wrong, but we're still going to be okay.
That used to be okay. And I still think it is. People can think the way they want to. They can go to church or not. They can go to any church or not, or any place of worship. That's their business. Who am I to tell them? Who am I to tell them those things? And I consider myself a pretty conservative traditionalist guy, but that was traditional thinking in the United States. This is a big country with a lot of different people in it. We're a country of majority rule and minority rights, and I wouldn't change that. I just think that there should be standards as far as what is normal and what is not normal. I'm going to get in trouble with you on that. You're going to walk away from me now and say, well, he's just wrong.
No, well, I'm laughing at the word normal, because what is that anymore? I mean, I don't even think any of us know what normal is.
Oh, I do.
Anymore. Well,
you
good.
seem like a normal woman to me, Janece. If I see you, I don't wonder if you're a guy. Okay, I don't wonder.
My husband would probably question your
he wouldn't.
Your tag on normal.
I met him a few times in the Wayback Machine. He didn't strike me as the type of guy that would confuse you for a guy.
Well, no, I didn't mean that. I'm just saying to make me sound normal.
Okay.
Would be.
Janece, thanks so much as always.
Hey, have a fabulous weekend out there. Everybody be safe.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine and Janece Valentine. Now at AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 2:59, ladies and gentlemen. The news is coming up, and then we'll be talking with